Now read this.
Hello and welcome back to Now Read This, the Chronicles of Prydain, Book 3, the Castle of Llyr, Chapter 8, The Harp of Fflewddur. "Fly from here," urged the bard, never ceasing to pluck his harp strings. "Be gone! I've no idea how long she'll want to listen, or how long I can keep playing." "There must be another way," Terran cried. "We can't leave you." "I like it no more than you do," replied the bard. "But this is your chance. You must take it now." Terran hesitated. Fflewddur's face was grim and drawn, and he seemed already weary. "Be gone," Fflewddur repeated. "I'll play as long as I can. By then, if she's decided not to gobble me, she may go out hunting. Don't worry. If the harp fails, I'll think of something else." Sick at heart, Terran turned away. Leanne lay on her side across the threshold, one paw outstretched, the other gently curled against her tawny body. Her neck arched and her huge head turned toward Fflewddur. The fierce creature seemed altogether comfortable and peaceful. With yellow eyes half closed, she watched only the bard as Terran stealthily moved to join Gurgi and Prince Rune. Terran's sword remained with the other weapons beneath her paw, and he dared not attempt to snatch it away, fearful as he was of breaking the spell of Fflewddur's harp. The fallen stones at the corner of the hut gave a narrow passage into the clearing. Terran motioned hurriedly for the prince to go through. Gurgi followed on tiptoe, eyes wide with fright. He clutched his jaws in both hands to keep his teeth from chattering. Terran still hung back and turned once more to the bard, who gestured frantically. "Out! Out!" commanded Fflewddur. "I shall find you as soon as I can. Did I not promise you a new song? You shall hear it from my own lips. Until then, farewell!" Fflewddur's tone and glance left no room for question. Terran flung himself past the stones. In another instant he was free of the hut. As Terran feared, the horses had broken their tethers and fled at the sight of Leanne. Gurgi and Prince Rune had crossed the clearing and vanished into the forest. Racing at top speed, Terran soon caught up with them. Rune's pace had already begun to flag. His breathing was laboured, and he looked as though his legs might give away at any moment. Terran and Gurgi caught the staggering prince and bore him along as fast as they could. For some while the three struggled through the underbrush. The forest had begun to grow sparser, and Terran caught sight of a broad meadow. At the edge of the flat land he halted. Prince Rune, he knew, had reached the end of his strength, and he hoped only that they were a safe distance from Leanne. The Prince of Mona gratefully dropped to the turf. "I shall be up and about in a moment," he feebly insisted. His face was pale and drawn beneath its coating of soot, yet he tried valiantly to assume his usual cheerful grin. "Amazing how running seems to tire one out. I'll be glad when we find the master of horse and I can ride again." Terran did not answer immediately, but looked closely at Rune. The Prince of Mona bowed his head. "I can guess what you're thinking," Rune said in a low voice. "If it hadn't been for me, you wouldn't be in this plight. And I'm afraid you're right. It's my fault things turned out as they did. I can only ask your forgiveness. I'm not the cleverest person in the world," Rune added, smiling sadly. "Even my old nurse used to say I was all thumbs. But I hate being a blunderer. It's not what people expect of a prince. I didn't ask to be born into the royal house. That at least wasn't my doing. But since I was, I want very much to be worthy of it." "If you want to, then you shall," Terran answered, suddenly and strangely touched by the Prince of Mona's frankness, and not a little ashamed of his own unkind thoughts about Rune. "I ask your own forgiveness. If I envied your rank, it was because I believed you held it as a lucky gift, and took it for granted. You speak the truth. For a man to be worthy of any rank, he must strive first to be a man." "Yes, that's what I mean," Rune said eagerly. "That's why we must rejoin the Master of Horse as soon as we can. Don't you see? In this I'd hope not to fail. I want to be the one who finds Princess Eilonwy. After all, I'm to be betrothed to her." Terran looked at him in astonishment. "How do you know this? I thought only your parents." "Oh, there have been rumours around the castle," replied Rune, "and I sometimes heard a little more than I'm supposed to. I knew there was a betrothal in the wind even before I was sent to bring Princess Eilonwy to Mona." "Eilonwy's safe return is all that matters now," Terran began. He spoke slowly, knowing in his heart that he, no less than Rune, yearned to be Eilonwy's rescuer. But he realized there was a decision he must face without flinching. "The searchers by this time are far distant," Terran said, each word costing him an effort, yet each word forcing him to a choice as painful as it was clear. "Without horses, we cannot hope to reach them. Continuing our own search on foot would be too hard and too dangerous. We have only one path to follow, the one that would lead us back to Dinas Rydant."
"No, no," Rune cried. "I don't care about the danger. I must find Eilonwy."
"Prince Rune," Terran said gently, "I must also tell you this. Your father asked for my oath, and I have given it to keep you from harm." Rune's face fell.
"I might have guessed as much. Certainly I knew from the beginning, no matter what my father said about putting me in command, I wasn't really leading. No more than I am now. I understand. I'm under your orders. Whatever's to be done, you are the one to decide."
"There are others who can finish the task," Terran said. "As for us—" "See with lookings!" burst out Gurgi, who had been crouching near a fallen ash tree. "See comings with chasings and racings!" He waved his arms excitedly and pointed to a low ridge. Terran made out a figure running at top speed. His harp bouncing at his shoulder, his cloak rolled up and clutched under one arm, and his lanky legs pumping for all they were worth, the bard dashed down the slope. He flung himself to the ground and mopped his streaming face.
"Great! Merlin!" Fluda gasped. "I'm glad to see all of you again."
From his cloak he drew out the lost swords and handed them to the companions.
"And I think we shall all be glad to see these."
"Are you wounded?" Terran asked. "How did you escape? How did you find us?" Still puffing, the bard raised a hand.
"Give me a moment to catch my breath, for I lost it somewhere along the way. Wounded? Well, yes, in a matter of speaking," he added, glancing at his blistered fingers. "But I had no trouble finding you. Rune must have carried all the ashes in Glue's fireplace with him. I can hardly miss the trail. As for Leanne," Fluda went on, "the bards will sing of that, you can be sure. I must have played, sung, whistled, and hummed everything I ever knew, and twice over. I was sure I'd have to keep plucking and strumming for the rest of my life, however short that might be. Recall my plight," he cried, leaping to his feet. "Alone with a ferocious monster, bard against beast, beast against bard."
"You slew her," Terran exclaimed. "A bold strike, though a pity, for she was beautiful in her way."
"Ah, well, the truth of it is," Fluda said hastily, for the harp strings had tensed as though they might all break at once. "She finally went to sleep. I snatched up our swords and ran for dear life."
Fluda sank back to the turf, and he immediately began munching the food Gurgi had offered him.
"But I shouldn't vouch for Leanne's temper when she wakens," the bard continued. "She's bound to come after me. These mountain cats are trackers born, and since Leanne's 10 times bigger than an ordinary creature, she's surely 10 times more cunning. She'll not give up easily. I have the feeling her patience is as long as her tail. But I'm surprised you've not gotten farther. I thought you'd be well on your way to join the search."
Terran shook his head. He told the bard of the decision to return to Dinas Rydant.
"I suppose it is the best thing to do," Fluda reluctantly agreed, "especially now when Leanne may be prowling."
Terran scanned the hills for the easiest and safest path to follow. He caught his breath. A dark shape sped high above. It veered, circled, then dove directly toward him. "Its call!" Terran ran ahead and held out his arm. The crow dropped swiftly and lighted on Terran's outstretched wrist. The bird showed signs of grueling flight. His feathers were askew, and he looked like a bundle of rags, but he clacked his beak and jabbered excitedly.
"Eilonwy!" Carl croaked. "Eilonwy!"
Hey, you want to buy something? You can check the description for my books and audiobooks. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more content.